What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter.
Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house that's going to be torn down soon. I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building.
I'm joined today with Anne. Is it Kleinman? Is how you pronounce that?
Yes.
All
Yes,
right.
very good.
Excellent. And how are you today?
I'm good.
All
Well,
right.
You know
Awesome.
about our little, air raid siren, but yeah.
Right. We had a moment of delay for some air raids and all that kind of fun stuff, but here we are. We're ready to go. And if you've never seen a Chance Encounter before, air raids are unusual, but here's the main premise. I interview commercial real estate investors, and then I go through the 5 different motivations that investors tend to have, and I say, which one of them is you? Then I pull out my Dan Does Deal die, and you can download and print out one of your own if you want. It has the 6 different roles in a commercial deal that are all distinct. And then I ask the investor, which one of these is your core competency that you're most likely to contribute to in your next deal? But before we get to that, we need to know who we're talking to. So Anne, can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. Okay, so 9 to 5, I am a marketing person, marketing promotional products, and 5 to 9, I am a 3rd-generation commercial real estate investor. So a good part of my 9 to 5 is also blending the two and helping real estate investors use simple, easy tricks to upgrade, to make those value add upgrades look like they've already been done before anybody touches the inside of an apartment, for instance, in multifamily, or the inside of an office in commercial space. So it's kind of the melting pot of the 2 disciplines. And obviously I also do healthcare and employee gifts and all kinds of other from 9 to 5. But because of my commercial real estate background, I'm able to do things that the average promotional products person doesn't know how to do because they don't understand commercial real estate the way I do.
Right. I know that our last company, I worked for a single family firm, and it's fund and all that sort of stuff. And the boss sometimes would try to get away with hiring somebody in their early 20s, to take over social media or something like that. But if you don't know real estate and you don't know real estate people, it's not going to work. You're just going to be spending money and getting nowhere. It's not a great situation. But the first segment of these Chance Encounters is the motivation piece. And I get there by clicking on this and clicking on that, and then I hit this button right there, and boom, there it is. I usually start off with the motivation piece because even the newbies, they know what their motivation is, even if they don't know what their role is. So I've narrowed these motivations down to 5. The first one, if I get my cursor up there, yeah, it's there now. Now it's going. The first one is preserving your purchasing power. So if you are independently wealthy, if you are a family office, the main motivation that's going through your head is you have to keep on making acquisitions because the value of the cash flow that comes from your wealth is shrinking. Inflation is what ruins the party. So if you're looking to preserve purchasing power, that's why you're making your next acquisition. The next one is my reason, which is that I'm trading time for wealth. I've got a background in technology, which makes me a high earner. But high earners in the form of salary or wages are also paying the most expensive kind of tax, which is income tax. And then if I want to shoo away and build my wealth, I have to do that after I pay that tax. It makes more sense for me to pivot into the commercial real estate industry itself. And then that way I'm getting rewarded with equity, aka wealth, instead. So that's what I'm up to. That's my button. The next group is the most common one, which is fast tracking your retirement. There are some things that are implied here. That's not you? Yeah, exactly. See, I think you
That's
caught what's
not me.
implied. Right. The part that's implied in fast tracking your retirement is that maybe once you're an accredited investor or better, maybe you want to live someplace with a low cost of living and just take her easy all the time. You know, maybe you work 1 day a month. That's the version of retirement. But that's in contrast to the next group. They're so ambitious. They want to buy their entire hometown. They want a skyscraper with their name on it. They're going to keep on hustling and hustling and hustling. They want generational wealth. They don't want their great grandkids to have a day job. So that's another motivation. And the last one is that some people pick a sector of society, or maybe it's the environment or animals or whatever it is. And they realize that increasing your net worth is one of the best ways to end up having the ability to give back. So that's what they're up to.
So I have to tell you, Dan, having dealt with tenants and toilets for over 30 years, that last one is definitely not my motivation.
Okay. That's funny. So what combination of the other four resonates best?
So there's definitely a bit of an inflation hedge, a bit of an accumulation. I do not believe in anybody not working. So while I don't mind accumulating the wealth, my kids know they got to keep working to keep it and maintain it. I am third generation, so I know the stories. My great uncle, everybody has their coulda, woulda, shoulda story, but our families is a little bit unique. My grandfather and his brother were the painting contractor for Rockefeller Center when it was built by the Rockefeller family in the 1930s. And John Z. Jr. offered my great uncle and my grandfather, but the great uncle was the titular head of the family, and the 3 blocks facing Rockefeller Center were available. And he offered it to them at $25,000 per block on 6th Avenue. But in 1930 something, 32, $25,000 was a heck of a lot of money. And he said, "What are you, crazy? No way, not paying that kind of money for it." They did own office buildings and parking lots and taxpayers and all of that. So we all grew up knowing that. We know the flat roofs, you got to watch it in the snow or you might have a collapse and have a hefty roofer bill. So we kind of all, we've learned it, but if you want to maintain it, unless you're going to only be a passive investor, which isn't quite my thing. I like to work. I like what I do from 9 to 5 too. And so, no, not looking to fast track my retirement because I like what I do. I like what I do from 9 to 5. I like what I do from 5 to 9.
That's awesome.
And I like the merging of the two. So it's definitely wealth preservation because we are expats. We've got some unique tax situations. So I don't know that I could really say it's a tax motivation. And yeah, because we moved out of New York before we left the country. So we eliminated, that was a start to the tax elimination because Florida's got no personal income tax.
Right.
And
that's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So and you were talking about and you were saying that you love doing what you do. So let's go through the commercial real estate roles for you in the audience in case you don't have all that much experience. So the 6 different roles. Let's start with the repositioner because that's the one that's easiest for most people to understand, which is they look at a whole whack of different properties. So there's an acquisition part of it and they do something, the fancy word is underwriting, and it means they do the math. They find out, is the person who's offering to sell this property, are they telling the truth? Is it actually making the amount of money that they say it is? And also they're looking for upside. And what are the 2 tools in the repositioner's toolbox as far as upside? The first one has to be more efficient operations, cutting costs, stopping those Benjamins from going down the toilet here. Okay, so that's also, there's also a marketing piece. You mentioned the marketing piece, which is the leasing agent part, making sure that that vacancy is low. But more efficient operations these days, it's probably not enough. And so as a result, the other tool in the repositioner's toolbox is the contractor team, and they fix it up so that way they can charge more rent. And that is de facto upside. But there's a problem if you're me, because I'm from the internet. So as a repositioner from the internet, having the contractors and having the operations is not enough. You have to have boots on the ground. You have to have a local who can be there in an hour, because I don't even want to have to find my passport in an hour. So it's got to be somebody else. And if you're a tenant, you probably see these people and you think, oh, those are the owners. But oh, wouldn't that be nice? The reality is that you got to borrow the money if you want to be buying a new acquisition more often than not. So you got to go to the financiers. A capital raiser is also a form of financier, but you go to the bank and say, hey, I found this building. It's worth tens of millions of dollars. I really, really want to buy it. So can you lend me, say, tens of millions of dollars? And what they'll want to know, they say, okay, there's the property, looks all good, but who's your sponsor? And if you're in most coaching programs, they'll kind of skip over this part. And it's not so great. But what's a sponsor? A sponsor is someone who already owns a similar asset. So even if you're Elon Musk and you want to buy like a 350 or 1,500 unit apartment complex, if you want to get a loan, somebody in the fold has to already own a 1,500 unit apartment complex or whatever it is, a similar asset. You also have to supply some liquidity, and then there also has to be a balance sheet of at least the amount of the loan. But if you have all those pieces, you have yourself a commercial real estate deal. So, Anne, you alluded to some of your core competencies already, but can you get into more detail using that die as a model?
Yeah, so here's the really interesting thing, and I guess it says it all. You showed me repositioner, and I go, oh, I can reposition a property so that people want to pay more rent. Because to me, repositioning means rebranding, marketing it to a different segment of the population, and repositioning the property. I am not a numbers cruncher. I am terrible with numbers. However, I have a sixth sense, and my core, having owned New York City rent stabilized multifamily for 30 years plus, I have a sixth sense when people are lying and claiming that it's their primary residence and they're entitled to a stabilized lease and a stabilized rent amount. And so I'm really good at smelling those people out and getting rid of them. There are a number of ways to legally get rid of them. You can buy them out, you can throw them out through the court system, or you can hope that they are non-payment people, and then you just go after them on the non-payment, and most of them you can then get out.
So that's an operations piece, by the sounds of it, like knowing how to.
Yeah, it is more operations. Having grown up in the building trades, I do know a lot about the technical operations side. And then it's really cool because in the next generation of our extended family, we have a whole bunch of plumbers and electricians and contractors. And so we kind of made some of them our boots on the ground. You know, a tenant calls and says, I have a leak. I know I'm sending in somebody I can trust. I don't have to go stand there and double check the plumber.
Right, exactly.
So
that's a beautiful thing.
That's also a way, but we discussed with them, well, you know, if we patch it, how, you know, when are we going to pay a second time? My grandfather was a firm believer that the rich man pays once and the poor man pays twice. And the corollary to that is that penny pinchers end up paying twice very often.
Right.
If you, especially when you're dealing with water and buildings, spend the money on the best plumber you can afford. And if it means changing a pipe, do it. Don't skimp, because when that pipe goes, now you've got a flood. Now you've got damage and mold potentially. You've got tenants screaming up the wazoo. So now you've got, if you're in a place that's not rent stabilized, so that's not a motivation for a tenant to stay. Now you've got tenants who want to move out because they've got mold, they've got leaks, they've got all kinds of stuff, and it's not getting fixed fast enough for their taste because you're kind of stuck.
Right. Good. Yeah, you came back. The internet choked for a heartbeat there.
Yeah. Okay. So it's at the end of the day, there's a lot on the operation side, on the construction side, that years of building trades
it's in your blood.
experience has taught me.
Exactly.
It is, yeah, it is. I walk into places and I go, why'd they whitewash the walls? It won't hold up. They're going to have to do it again in 6 months.
I love that.
Put
I
a
love
real
that.
coat of paint on.
Yeah.
Put
Yeah.
a real coat of paint. Now, certain places like New York City, it's in the lease and it's in the guidelines, courtesy of the government, how often you have to paint for a rent stabilized tenant.
Aha.
A little wacky, but it's there. But if you don't have that, because for whatever the reason, the asset you own is not rent stabilized, so maybe it's fewer than 6 units, or maybe it's a co-op building and you have sponsor apartments, or maybe then that are market rent, you don't have to. You can do it properly and then do it again when the tenant moves out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
So there are a lot of ways to kind of skim. There are also a lot of ways, tricks, tips, and whatnot to take that C or B minus class property and for $10,000 upgrade the exterior
Mhm.
before you ever start doing that renovation inside.
Mhm.
And now when somebody comes to look at the apartment to rent, their expectation and what they're willing to pay is already raised,
Right. Right.
because
Right.
they feel like they're walking into an A minus or a B plus property suddenly, because the sign isn't left over from 1950
Mhm.
at the gate,
Right.
or the doormat doesn't look like it's been through the First and Second World Wars. And it's not coming clean because it's olefin garbage that should have been thrown out 3 years ago.
Right. Right.
So there are ways to do it, but you don't replace it with another olefin mat, because that goes back to paying once or paying twice.
Mhm.
And so those are things that I know how to do.
Mhm. Mhm. That's beautiful.
You
Very. It's clear how
so-
valuable you are on the team. So, as far as an ideal property, though, I mentioned it as a buy box in these chance encounters, which is an ideal property, a property that's easier to say yes to. It's more difficult to say no to, and the main identifiers are geography, and then unit count, and then you already mentioned the classes. As far as like a sweetheart deal for you, what do you wish people would bring you more of as far as properties go?
So that's interesting. So I am actually currently evaluating international deals.
Okay. Mhm.
More than, and looking for people this is a flip side of the chance encounter, right? Because
Mhm.
we're looking for people who are looking to invest internationally,
Mhm. Mhm.
both where the US is international for them and where outside the US is international for them.
Mhm. Mhm.
So those are really, in terms of unit, it varies by region, because to me, I want to be out of the scope geographically of those rent stabilization guidelines. So California, New York, Chicago, I don't want to hear about it.
Mhm.
I don't want to know,
Right.
unless it's a condo sponsor situation where it's a new build and it's going to be condos. That's a different story. And right now, I still wouldn't look at anything in those 3 places.
Right.
But any place that doesn't have that, I'm always open to looking. My one other thing, and this is a little bit unusual, I guess, is I like doing deals where the buy-in is small.
Okay.
I'm not looking to be big fish in a little pond. Like, I don't want to be one of 4 investors who put in 250K. I want to be one of 10 or 15 or 20 who've put in 10 or 25K,
Mhm. Mhm.
because I like having in all things, in all investments, I like having a very diverse portfolio.
That makes a lot of sense. All right, great.
Yeah,
And if
that's
somebody
right.
wants to reach out with you, like you've got an idea there of what you're looking for. So we need an idea, I guess, of pricing. So you're talking about you don't want to be involved. Normally it's $1 million plus is like the cutoff for a lot of people. What about you as far as the property value? Do you have some sort of metric for that of what you like? Is it?
Well, because I like being small fish in a big pond, and I want most of the other people in the deal to be small fish in a big pond kind of thing. Um, but I'll look at things that are 3 to 5 million without it blinking an eye. But I'll also look at something that, if somebody has a great 10 unit something in the Southeast that's 750K, I'll look at it. I don't have that kind, though. I know a lot of people have those metrics and they want to see if it's $1 million apartment, they want to know that they're going to make the rental on any given unit's going to be at least $1,000 a month. I don't look at it that way. I look at the total property and the return and what we're doing and how long are we going to hold it? How, is it 1031able? Sometimes that's really critical to me. I don't know that it will be in 2022, but it might be.
Yeah.
I'll see, we've got hopefully in the next year some 1031 money coming up, but it's so I'm much more flexible than the average investor because I grew up on the hardcore commercial side.
Yeah.
Cut my on my own in multifamily over 30 years ago. And so there are very few properties that I'm uncomfortable with. There are lots of deals I'm uncomfortable with, but there are property classes. Probably the only 2 property classes that I'm uncomfortable because I don't think I have a good enough knowledge base is self-storage and hotels.
Okay. All right.
Those are my 2. I know the assisted living space even. I don't think it's something I necessarily want to get involved in, but it's a space I know. Certainly in New York, rules, regulations, licensing, all that good stuff. So I'm usually, and I'm always open for a conversation because the maxim, who is a wise man, he who learns from everyone, is my guiding principle in life.
Beautiful. So
and it's always worth a conversation.
Yeah, definitely. So, and if people do want to reach out to you, like we ended up meeting through LinkedIn. LinkedIn's the best way. You don't. It's
LinkedIn's,
not
it's quick. It's easy. I'm one of those people who checks LinkedIn probably 5 to 6 days a week, sometimes even 7, and generally at least twice a day I'll check. And people say to me, like, "How do you spend so much time on LinkedIn?" Well, I don't spend that much time in my feed. I spend a lot of time in my inbox. So I try and treat it like another email. And if it's something that I think makes sense, I'll move you to email so you don't get lost. Because the LinkedIn's inbox needs a lot of work. You think Microsoft could figure it out, but
so
that we wouldn't have to leave
only
to
as
go
old
to
as
Outlook.
I am. It's like 1980-ish. Like, it's pretty sad, but you make a good point about making sure that you can stay in touch. So I want to say something to you in the camera there, which is if you look under my hand over here, there's something that really bothers me. It's a red button. It says subscribe, and I hate the fact that it's red. And the only way to stop it from being red is to click on it, and then it will turn gray, which is beautiful and tranquil and everything that the world really meant it to be, because it means YouTube will pay for these videos instead of me. So please do that. It's absolutely free. It costs you nothing. And all it means is that my videos might show up on your list of suggestions if you ever happen to hop into YouTube and the YouTube app. And you don't even have to watch those videos. You've already done me an enormous favor by just hitting the subscribe button. Just like Ann, you've done me an enormous favor by coming in and joining me today on this chance encounter. This has been really great getting to know you better.
My pleasure.
All right.
That's
Thank you
fun.
very much. All right. Awesome.
I just want to tell you, because I've actually seen your website, Real Estate is a Scam, before, and I loved it.
Oh,
And,
cool.
yeah, because I think it's really so spot on. There's good stuff, bad stuff in every industry.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell. For Dan the Man.
And thank you. Turn that subscribe button from red like his beard to gray like his beard will be.
So I met Dan through some networking groups for real estate investing. He's a great guy from what I know about him. He's very ambitious, and he makes it easy to come on with his questions and has a great setup. It's easy, it's clear, concise, and I'd recommend going on his interviews for anyone that's considering it.
It was unlike anything I've ever experienced. It was super fun. The process was so easy, a caveman can do it. I mean, if you guys haven't done it yet, you guys need to get on his calendar. Just take 15 minutes of your time, get exposure, find out who Dan is, what he's about. He's a true trifecta. And if you don't know who he is, get in touch with him. Google his name, find him on LinkedIn, do whatever you can. Just reach out to him.
So I really appreciate the format. Like I've told you a couple times before, I think it's really great because me personally, I'm very long-winded. I have to purposefully make things more concise, but the way I take things in is I definitely prefer things to be concise and straight to the point and concentrated. And the chance encounters really do that great for individuals. So you can get a good grasp on who they are, what do they do, why do they do it, what space do they operate in. That's why I love chance